just because someone's dead, it doesn't mean that they can come back to life. Mothers, you have that power to bring people back to life. It might not be a physical power where you go to the grave physically and pray for people and they come back to life, but there's this power that's bestowed upon you to breathe life everywhere you go. And get this, the name Eve, it's not just for mothers now, it's for every female that breathes and lives in this planet. You have that power to speak and breathe life. What an amazing revelation that God would use Lazarus, his death, and show his resurrection power through him. You see, Jesus, the story I didn't pick, it's not about a mother. It's not about Mother Mary, or it's not about Sarah. It's about Lazarus. It's about Jesus bringing someone to life. And I love that God did that. It was a moment of urgency. It was a 911 ICU critical moment that when you come to the very end of yourself, that's where God's grace comes in. When you think that there's no more chance left for those around you to be saved, God comes in. It's those moments where it's so critical. It's not just a moment where, oh yeah, you know, they're okay. They look like they're going to come back to life. But this person was dead. This person was gone. Yet God gave him a chance. Hands up here if you've ever been rescued by a lifesaver before. At the beach. Kuya James, apparently. So the reference to the fourth day is quite significant for setting the scene because it was a dramatic miracle, very dramatic. It was a desperate time that called for a desperate measure. And so when we find ourselves, or when we find people around us nearing decay, it's the perfect time for God's grace to step in. So when God created Eve, I love that he called her Eve because it means mother. But at the same time, next slide, please. Yep, stay there. In the book Captivated, when God creates Eve, he calls her an Ezer Kenegdo. Everyone say Ezer Kenegdo.
Ezer Kenegdo.
Well, that was pretty. Say it again.
Ezer Kenegdo.
I put the pronunciation up there because I wasn't sure. I had to Google the pronunciation. Some people call it Ezer Kenegdo, or Ezer Kenegdo. But when God created Eve, he created her to be an Ezer Kenegdo. He said, Genesis 2:18, it is not good for the man to be alone. I shall make him an Ezer Kenegdo. You're like, what does that mean? You're like, man, you don't even know what it means. But I will tell you what it means. A Hebrew scholar, Robert Alter, who has spent years translating the book of Genesis, says that this phrase is notoriously difficult to translate, and the various attempts we have in English are helper, or companion, or the notorious helpmeet. He goes, why are these translations so incredibly wimpy, boring, flat, and disappointing? What is a helpmeet anyway? This is what he says. What little girl dances through the house singing, one day I want to be a helper, or one day I want to be a companion, or one day I want to be a helpmeet? You're like, oh, I do. Dream bigger. I'll tell you. The word entire Old Testament. And in every other instance, the person being described is God himself. And get this, it's used when you need him to come through for you desperately.
Wow.
So it's in 911 situations, it's in critical moments, it's in moments like the death of Lazarus, where they call it the Ezer. Amazing, huh? Next slide. It's in life and death contexts. For example, Deuteronomy 33, 26, 29. Blessed are you, O Israel, who is like you, a people saved by the Lord. He is your shield and helper and your glorious sword. Psalm 121, 1 to 2. I lift my eyes up to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Psalm 20, 1 to 2. May the Lord answer you when you are in distress. May the name of God, the God of Jacob, protect you. May he send you help. Psalm 33, 20. We wait in hope for the Lord. He is our help and our shield. Most of these contexts are life and death experiences where God is your only hope. Amazing that God would say that he would create Eve and he would give her that title, Ezer, so that in moments of 911, moments where it's very critical, moments when it's life and death, he would send the mother and he would send the female. What a role that you play. What a privilege that you play, women. And that is why we rejoice this morning. We celebrate the role of the women. We celebrate motherhood. It's a great thing. It's a beautiful thing. You are God's masterpiece. So Jesus was the Ezer to his friend Lazarus. And so Ezer Kenegdo means this. Next slide. Ezer means lifesaver.
Wow.
Kenegdo means alongside. So he has called you to be a lifesaver. It may not look like Baywatch style, where abs are sticking out and you get to, wear your bikini. Some of you are like, no! Don't want to think of my mom. That's okay. Reality is that's what she is. She's a lifesaver. I remember years ago, 2004 or 2005, we were at the beach and I got caught in a rip. Do you know what a rip is? All the beach people, the surfers, Michelle, no. But rips are currents, and it's a source of danger for people in the ocean and the lake surf. It drags swimmers out into the sea. And I remember that moment when I got caught in a rip, and the waves started pushing me out into the ocean. And because I'm not a beach person, I didn't know that you had to swim sideways or something. So I tried to fight it. And silly me, when I tried to fight it, it kept bringing me back out. So I was put in this position where I started to panic. And I was getting brought out further and further into the ocean to the point where I had to call for help. And I was like that, pretty much drowning and panicking. Well, not drowning yet, but I was in panic mode. And I remember that moment when a lifesaver came, and he came with his boat. And when he was on his boat, he was fighting the waves to get to me. But then when he had gotten me, I held onto the boat. And on that boat, I was just like, waves are crashing. It was such a dramatic and epic moment. And so the waves are crashing, and he